Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. JJ here, and today we're going to look at every 2024 and 2025 LEGO Harry Potter Hogwarts Castle set. In this video, we're going to look at each of these sets and see how they either connect, interact, or interchange with each other in some way. We are also going to speculate about some of the rumors for the 2025 summer wave of the LEGO Harry Potter Hogwarts Castle sets, kind of how we think these are going to fit in and what rooms or interchangeability will be included there. We will briefly look at the Forbidden Forest sets from 2024 and how they kind of connect and interact as well. But let's jump right in and look at these sets. So really the first and only actual true connection is going to be between the Great Hall and the Boathouse. As you can see, when you come down the steps of the Great Hall from the courtyard, there is a very obvious connection point here at the bottom. And you can see kind of the blue there for the water on the base plate, which of course has a perfect connection here for the back of the Boathouse. This is good. It really shows us that the designers were actually planning for this Hogwarts system to connect and it didn't feel like an afterthought, which is some of the speculation we see for the 2021 Hogwarts Castle wave. And here we can see that it is clipped in. It is a pretty firm connection without being too hard to disconnect, which is nice. I also think the minifigures we see for these two sets are very complementary. For the Boathouse, we get pretty much the best iteration we've ever seen of Professor McGonagall with some of that back and arm printing. And then we have the four students, Hermione, Harry, Neville, and Dean Thomas. Now, when we look at the Great Hall, we do see a overlap with Hermione and Harry also being included, but, they're part of the Golden Trio, so that makes sense. We also get Ron. For professors, we have Quirrell, Dumbledore, and Professor Vector. And then we have these three kind of random students, Leanne from Hufflepuff, Daphne Greengrass from Slytherin, and Terry Boot from Ravenclaw. It makes sense to include, I think, a character from each house. We also see the Fat Friar and the Troll. I would say Draco is noticeably missing. He did come in a poly bag that you can get as a gift with purchase at some point. He probably should have been in one of these two sets, but oh well, I'm happy we have each of the houses represented. And while the boathouse and staircase up to the courtyard is the only proper connection we see with this Hogwarts Castle wave, there's going to be a lot of interchangeability with the rooms when you look there at the bottom half, kind of the rock structure. And there are multiple sets that can kind of interchange with this set, and we'll look at those now. And of course, when looking at the Great Hall, we naturally see the dining room with all the different kind of student tables, flags, teacher section as well. And then this Great Hall version, we also see a courtyard area. But like I said, this was built atop a rock structure, and a huge reason for that was to create these rooms underneath. This set gives us the girls' bathroom with the broken sink when the troll attacks. We also see this hallway, which is where I display my collectible portraits that come with these Hogwarts Castle sets. And then we also see the Hufflepuff Common Room. Both the girls' bathroom and Hufflepuff Common Room share the same footprint. And if you notice here on the side, we have this piece that allows it to kind of fit in underneath of the Great Hall. And you can change if you put it on the left or the right. If you notice these little corridors, they have kind of the areas there on the left and the right for you to slide the rooms in. And there is a connection point there with the Technic pieces at the back, which fit in easily to the back of the bathroom or the Hufflepuff classroom. If you notice, they're just round connecting pieces. And so here, the pieces were the kind of cross pieces, so they're not gonna be too snug of a fit. It's gonna hold it in place, but be very easy to remove. And then this little portrait hallway is gonna be about half the size of the footprint. Actually, it is half the size of the footprint. Very similar, we can see the connection points there at the back, as well as these slide pieces, and we can just put that right in the center section quite easily. Now, this next set, the Potions Classroom, was designed so they could fold up and fit in the space of either the Hufflepuff Common Room or the girls' bathroom. This is part of the original wave for this castle system. Again, the minifigures work well. We see Seamus, Snape, and Pansy, so that kind of fits in with the students that we got for the other two sets. Three-peat here for Hermione. It is strange for me that she is repeated for a third time before Harry Potter, but nonetheless, let's take a look at the set. The designers got really creative with pretty much how you can fold this classroom to create the rectangle that is in the same size as the girls' bathroom in the Hufflepuff Common Room. The set was $40, and of course you can see a lot of that price point went to making the walls so that this could be more of a standalone set if you don't connect it to the Great Hall, although I think it looks best with the Great Hall. Not super awesome as a standalone set as there's no kind of roof or completion of the room. Even with the taller walls, it fits perfectly in the space underneath the Great Hall. And you can even open up this wall that has the door to look inside at the Potions Classroom. It kind of has it set up so you can place, I would say, most of the minifigures. It's hard to get the fourth one in there just because the girls' skirt pieces kind of get in the way if you put them in that back row. Now, one of the newer sets that we see here that fits into the Great Hall is going to be the Charms class. Of course, we see Flitwick, Ron, and Hermione. So this is Hermione's fourth appearance. She's really making a name for herself in this Hogwarts Castle wave, but this is going to be half the size of the potions class, and so when you fold it up, very similarly, it can take the place of kind of that center area with the portrait gallery. And very similarly, when we place it underneath of the Great Hall here, we are able to open the door. So it is kind of neat that we can kind of have these classrooms set up underneath of the Great Hall if you're playing with the set or displaying it from the backside for the details. And I like that they can be closed up as well. And in theory, if we get another classroom that fits the same footprint as the Hufflepuff Common Room, we can kind of have 3 classrooms here underneath the Great Hall. The next Hogwarts Castle set that has some connection points is going to be the Flying Lesson set that came out in January 2025. What's cool about this set is it does kind of unravel. If you look here, we can open this up and kind of spin this around. And this set interacts with the Hogwarts Castle system in 2 ways. First, we do have these 2 smaller rooms that pull out. This is going to be the same footprint as the Portrait Gallery and the Charms class. And then if you look here, we also have these kind of little connection clips. If you noticed earlier, we do have kind of a match for those connection clips here on the back of the Great Hall. So we're going to mess around with that and see how we can connect the Flying Lesson now. So for all 4 of those clips, there's going to be no connection point for the bottom, but we are technically able to connect the top connection point between the Flying Lesson and the Great Hall. So you can kind of create this angle, which just doesn't seem necessary because you could do this angle without clipping it in. So I'm not really certain if that's intentional. Or you can clip it here on the other side of the Great Hall and kind of create this mini courtyard. And here we'd see that would put it on the left side of the Great Hall. I'll be honest, I don't think any of these connection points are intentional. I think that's for a future set. I think the Flying Lesson will somehow connect on the other side of the castle at some point. So if you're someone who must connect your castle now, I guess you have a few areas you could try and connect it to. But really, you're probably going to have to wait for some more additional sets. Now, looking at the kind of areas here in the Flying Lesson Tower, these both slide out, and they're going to be in the same footprint as the Portrait Gallery, as well as the Charms class. Both builds are very disappointing, similar to the Portrait Gallery. So I am curious if we're going to see additional sets more like the Charms class that can fit into these towers. So when you put the Charms class in the bottom of the Flying Lesson Tower, it fits well. And if you open the door, it doesn't really open all of the way. The only solution is to not push it in all the way, but then you have this overhang over the door, but it can open. So for this reason, I keep the Charms class underneath the Great Hall set. Here you can notice the Great Hall isn't raised like we see for both of the chambers and the tower for the Flying Lesson. And realistically, I'm keeping these Quidditch supplies as well as this Transfiguration office or classroom here in the Flying Lesson Tower, which is just leaving our Portrait Gallery homeless. And this does, of course, raise an interesting point. If these standalone sets like the Charms class and Potions classroom are able to connect to the various builds for the Hogwarts Castle sets, what do we do with the builds that came with them originally, like the girls' bathroom and the Portrait Gallery? Is there ever going to be a set that has empty chambers to kind of fill in all of the gaps so that every set could be incorporated in the Hogwarts Castle? Or are we going to have to pick and choose and kind of leave some either off to the side or, put away in a bin somewhere? Alrighty, so we have looked at the connection point with the Boathouse, and now we've looked at the interchangeable rooms on the bottom of the Great Hall with some of those other sets. But there are other ways this castle interacts, and that's going to be here with the Great Hall, the dining area. This year's advent calendar is compatible with the Great Hall, and essentially it just includes lots of different accessories to place in the Great Hall to decorate it for Christmas. And as a spoiler alert, essentially we see a bunch of different statues, tables, a chimney fireplace, as well as Christmas trees to place around the Great Hall. It also comes with really great minifigures. We see Draco, Cho, and Susan, who we haven't gotten, our three-peat for Harry, as well as a really great choir ghost there. And then we see Dumbledore and Flitwick. So it's a good addition to this Hogwarts Castle wave, if not for nothing else, just the minifigures included. Another set we see is going to be the Dueling Club, which will interact with the Great Hall dining area. This, of course, has Harry and Draco, as well as Snape and Lockhart. Essentially, if you clear out all of the tables, you can put the Dueling Club stage kind of right inside. And here we can see the Dueling Club here in the Great Hall. I did have to kind of keep it off-center just so that that play feature could still be active, or we make Draco or Harry kind of go back. And one thing that's really cool about the Dueling Club set, of course, is that this lets us know that we are definitely moving through the film. So a lot of the wave from 2024 really felt like the Philosopher's Stone. And a lot of this set did too, or this wave in 2025. But we see here with the Dueling Club, clearly Chamber of Secrets. So I'm hopeful for more Chamber of Secrets in the summer, as well as a transition into the Prisoner of Azkaban. Now, for me, the Flying Lesson Tower is the weakest in this line of Hogwarts Castle sets. I like that it gives some height and additional tower build. However, it not being clear how it connects to the castle as well as the price point just puts it pretty low for me. And looking at the minifigures, Harry, Draco, Neville, and McGonagall are repeats. So really the Flying Instructor and Oliver Wood are the only two new characters. So if you have to skip a set from this Hogwarts Castle's wave, definitely recommend the Flying Lesson. And then another set we see from this Hogwarts Castle wave is the Owlery, built in a little bit of a different scale. However, this is more of a standalone building, so I think that's okay. We do get multiple layers. There's going to be snow here on the Owlery, which is a little different than the rest of the Hogwarts Castle. But once this line or Hogwarts system is fully fleshed out, I'm hoping there is an area that clearly is designated for the Owlery. The minifigures are somewhat confusing. The minifigures themselves aren't confusing. In the context of being released with a bunch of Philosopher's Stone sets, they're confusing. I think this is book and movie 4 with Cho and Harry, as well as obviously Filch there. And so I'm curious why this was released so early in the wave. You know, it has a very awesome interior, definitely the most detailed Owlery we've seen in LEGO Harry Potter. So it does fit the theme of the most detailed Hogwarts Castle system. But I'm hopeful that we get some additional clarification, I guess, once the castle is kind of expanded upon to see how this set kind of fits into everything. And quite unusual that we see minifigures from such a different film, because usually Harry Potter follows 1 or 2 films at a time. But a great set nonetheless, and I do like the minifigures, especially those torso prints. Now, before we jump into speculation of some of the rumors for the 2025 summer wave of LEGO Harry Potter, I do want to look at these 3 sets for the Forbidden Forest, because they do connect, which is quite interesting to start to create a forest. Of course, here we have the Aragog build, great spider build, and we see this little kind of spider with connection pieces on both sides. And then the Draco polybag, which I got quite a few of, also has a little nook for this owl. And then, of course, the largest set is going to be, you know, the magical creatures in the Forbidden Forest. And so I like that the designers are, similarly to the Hogwarts Castle system, building a expandable Forbidden Forest. I hope they continue on this because we really need more trees to make it a forest. And I know some people don't like the coloring, but I think this glow-in-the-dark aspect really makes a creepy scene for the LEGO Harry Potter Forbidden Forest. All right, the first summer 2025 rumored set we're going to talk about is going to be the Herbology Classroom. My hope is that from an exterior, we kind of get a greenhouse build, but I do expect it to be similar to the Charms and Potions class in some way. The set is rumored to be $59.99, so for context, the Charms class is $20, the Potions class is $40, and then the Flying Lesson is $80. So it's going to be somewhere in between what we got for both the Potions class as well as the Flying Lesson set. My honest hope is that we get a build of an exterior of a greenhouse with quite a few details, kind of similar to the size of the Potions classroom. And then the actual Herbology class is going to be kind of like the Potions class, ability to slide in and out of that exterior. In terms of walls for the Herbology class, my guess is they'll be somewhere between a mix of the Hufflepuff Common Room and the Potions class. I don't think we will see a fully fleshed out walled build because a lot of that will be for the exterior portion of the build with the panes of glass from the greenhouse. But I do think it'll be a little bit, well, it better be a little bit more expanded upon than we saw with the Hufflepuff the Hufflepuff Common Room here. So I'm thinking kind of a build somewhat similar to this to create an exterior at the sizing footprint that we saw for the Potions class, as well as the Hufflepuff Common Room. And then the actual ability to slide in and out the Herbology classroom section, where if you slide it out, you're essentially left with just an empty greenhouse. Let me know what you think, and if you have a different idea for how you think the Herbology classroom will fit into this Hogwarts Castle wave, or if you agree it'll be similar to the Potions classroom footprint with a Hufflepuff Common Room similar type of build with an exterior greenhouse. Now, the only other summer 2025 rumored Hogwarts Castle set is going to be the main tower and grand staircase, which I think almost certainly has to connect to this point right here on the back of the girls' bathroom, which now is the Hufflepuff Common Room, as well as this entryway we see here from the courtyard. In terms of how far it extends, I really do think it will fit between these 2 connection points. So I think that'll be the major connection point we see. I think at this area is where we'll see kind of the grand staircase. I'm not sure what will be in the dungeon, maybe the Slytherin Common Room. I know this isn't going to be fully, Hogwarts Castle realistic for what we know for areas to be located around the Hogwarts grounds, but I am interested to see kind of what they put here in the dungeon area. My guess is it'll be a very similar build if it's a Slytherin Common Room to the Hufflepuff Common Room here. And while I think it'll be placed here, I'm curious if there'll be some way to swing it open, if you want to play from the back. The set is rumored to be $250 for context. The Great Hall was $200, so that's $50 more. So if we're thinking the base of it will be the same dimensions here as the common room and extend up to the courtyard, my guess is it could be probably 5 levels high, which will put it an entire level and a half above the height of the dining room, which I think that might be tall enough. Maybe it'll extend a little bit higher with the roof, the build techniques they use for the roof, which I think will be nice. So my guess is we'll get a common room, probably Slytherin, maybe in the basement, the grand staircase, probably maybe Dumbledore's office, maybe like an astronomy classroom up in the top. If we have one at the top, I'm guessing the tower would have thinned out a little bit, and then perhaps we'll see it built in the dimensions of the portrait gallery, but instead of being built this way, it'll be this way. I don't know, I'm very curious. What buildings do you think will be included in that main tower? And do you agree for the placement here, kind of behind the courtyard, or do you think it'll extend further out? Maybe to this third clip. I can't imagine it going all the way to the fourth clip. That seems wildly unnecessary since we really need height on this build. Do you think it will cover the third clip? I just feel like with only $50 more than the Great Hall, if we go all the way over here, we're only getting a little bit of bricks to increase the height kind of up in this area. So I really think it's going to stick to these first 2 pin connection points, and that will allow it to be pretty much 5 levels, maybe 6 levels higher, which if this is supposed to be the most realistic, detailed Hogwarts castle system we're getting, you really kind of need the height there with the main tower. And like I said, giving us the height of 6 additional levels. It will be very tall, which is the hope and dream that I hope the designers make come true. I'm also hopeful that we might get like the Bloody Baron as a ghost figure or some other characters we haven't seen yet in LEGO Harry Potter. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to stay updated with LEGO leaks, rumors, news, and reviews, hit the subscribe button down below. But I will see you all next time.